Hey, what's up guys? So today I want to show you these all new LUTs that I've created because it's taken me some time to make all these and I'm very, very excited about them for a couple of reasons. Now, rather than just say, hey, I made some LUTs, you should buy them, which is like sort of the normal, I guess, for lack of a better term, business plan when it comes to color grades, I want to try to explain why I think these are, in my opinion, superior and will help with your creativity, not just find a look and then be done with it. Sometimes they're great for that, don't get me wrong. And I do have LUTs that I consider to be a little more finalizing, but not only are these something that I recommend that you layer and use opacity on and things of that nature, but I want to explain kind of the basic idea of what a color grade might do and what it might not do, the different types of ways that we can remap pixels, because that's effectively what we're doing. That's what a LUT is. Now, if you don't know, a LUT, L-U-T, is a lookup table, which is just simply a series of information, if you will, kind of saved into a grid. This is all technical, which we're not going to go into right now. And it applies information of some kind, usually in the form of some kind of color grade, but also in corrective things like adding contrast, reducing contrast, bringing up the shadows, bringing down the highlights. They can be used for so much, and they're a bit of a standard in the world of video production because LUTs can be put into video. Now, all of these LUTs that I've created, like any ones that I've created before, can also be put into video applications for that sort of thing. But let me talk about sort of the basics. Let's start with this image here. I love using this image by my friend Sanjeev. So what we're going to do is, in my case, I've already put the LUTs into Photoshop. We have videos to show you how to do that, but you're going to use your adjustment layer called color lookup, right? We're going to look up a table, right? So when we go here, we have the very first option, 3D LUT file. In this case, I've already embedded them into Photoshop, so I have them in there. And like I said, we have videos that'll show you that. But if I go, for example, to the first one, just happens to be called 3D glasses, boom, we get a look. Right? Pretty straightforward. That shouldn't surprise anybody watching this, right? It's a color grade, but it's not just adding color. In this case, it's adding contrast. It's brightening the highlights. It's a series of things that I created that I thought looked cool for a specific look. But here's the thing. I'm going to go over some of the other ones real quick. The other images, I should say. And I'm going to apply the same LUT by dragging it over. There it is there. Let's put one on the car. Okay, and let's take it down to picture of Andy. There we are. And then we're also going to put it on this picture of a car. Okay, now you notice how the LUT responds, if you will, very differently, just like anything else. You know what? I didn't put it on this one, but let's go ahead and do it just to be thorough. There it is. You can kind of get the idea that 3D glasses look, whatever it is, sort of marries all these images together, if you will. There's something going on, if you will, that kind of makes everything the same because it's doing a wash of color. It's also doing, like I said, other functions as well. It could be contrast, it could be a reduction of contrast, it could be some kind of a curve, it could be another blend mode that does some different math, it could be affecting only the chroma, not affecting luma. It just depends on the layer stack that was used to create the LUT, right? Now, how do we envision that in a better way? Well, look at this. Here's a little test file, okay? It's simply a gradient, obviously. It's a radial gradient from white in the middle all the way to black on the corners. When we put, anything on that, really, we can see it more literal. So here's our color lookup. We're going to drag it over here. There it is. That is a way of viewing, in a technical way, whatever this 3D glasses LUT is. That's kind of what it does. Now, what's interesting is that when you put it on a pattern like this, it's going to show you how it can be, or rather you can set it up to show you what happens if you change it underneath. So for example, let's say I put a photo filter and I make it really strong. Okay, look at that. See, that's an orange photo filter. Unsurprisingly, it's added orange into it, which kind of negates that cyan, that sort of turquoise in it. So if your image is very, very orange, that green is going to be simply more of a neutral-ish. Okay, not exactly. If you add a cooling filter, whoa, suddenly now the green, the cyan is very, very strong, and the orange and the red is a little more muted and becomes a little more burgundy, right? Interesting how that works. And all that means, if we put up these two different photo filters that are split down the middle, you can see how that changes things radically. So that's a red, and this one's a cyan. Look how the exact same lookup table, the exact same grade, the exact same set of instructions, look how radically different it looks, right? So if I go here from 3D glasses, let's put on 70s couch. Boom. Again, very, very different. Turn these off, you kind of see the that it's like brown to green to a little bit of beige on the highlights. Very 70s couch indeed. But what happens if we feed cyan under it? What happens if we feed red under it, right? That's what happens there. Now, what about this though? What if we take a demo? This is a demo LUT that I've created. Okay, it's called Green Red Remap. I'm gonna open that up. Boom. Now we've taken all the shadows and made them red, all the highlights made them green, and then blend only the color in between them. There's no transparency here. You can prove this because if you put on our filters again, no change at all because we're fully remapping. Even if it was a black and white image, we're fully remapping. We'll just show you in a minute. So a color lookup table is not just a way to pop a little bit of warmth into your image. It absolutely can be that, but it can be so much more. This first set of LUTs, this is one of the reasons I wanted to show you guys this. This first set of LUTs that I'm offering is really, really cool. We've made LUTs before, but I think these are, in my opinion, superior. They're so cool because of the way they were made. I'm using RGB curves for almost all of the color grading on it. So if I come here to antique gold, boop, you see how beautiful that looks? Let's turn that off and on, off, on. Okay, very, very subtle, very, very useful. Arcade glow is going to be a little stronger, but look at that. See, it's still, in my opinion, very, very beautiful. You can always scale back the opacity. Absolutely beautiful. Using RGB curves to control what the shadows and highlights are doing in terms of the color grade, but also incorporating a contrast boost or reduction, various other luma curves and things to kind of create different looks. But the beautiful part about any color grade preset or any LUT or anything like that is that it'll change depending on what's underneath it. I just showed you a literal example of that in the demos. See how subtle these are? Now, when you do that in the demo, you can see, oh yeah, they do change based on what it is. So that is what I consider to be, this one's going to be very subtle. Yeah. Let's go to something crazy. How about bubblegum fire? So to go back, what I was going to say was that when you are exploring, this is 100 LUTs in this set. When you're exploring color looks and either you're layering them or not, okay, when you try it on one piece of footage or one image, it might look a certain way. Take the exact same LUT and try it on a different image, it could look a different way. So the exploration always continues. And what's cool about a LUT is that it's more of a full statement rather than add red. It's like, well, what is candy acid? Well, you know, let's go see. Let's go find out what candy acid is. So we come here to our LUT sort of viewing setup and we go to candy acid. There it is. That's candy acid. Looks like a purple shadow blends into this greenish taupe kind of thing and then a pink highlights. And you can see that being reflected here. See that? This visualizer is not necessary to be creative and to explore color and have fun. But when you have a visualizer like this and you see what's happening, okay, how there can be a combination of not necessarily transparent pixels, but instructions that tell pixels to change or instructions that tell pixels to completely replace. The completely different situation because it's just adjustment layers, okay? If you don't know how to make LUTs, that's okay. But what's really cool is, like I said, is that when you explore all of these, in my opinion, and I've made them, you know, I spent a lot of time putting these together. Just about any image you add them to, they look good. Let's go to this one. Zoom that one in a little bit. And let's change it around. Let's go to Canyon Tone. Look at that. Off, on. Scroll down even further. What do we got here? How about Velvet Lux? Coming up with these names was a lot of fun too. Just kind of, what did the grade kind of tell me, you know, from there to there? Very subtle on that one. I know I've got one that's really wild here. Let me find it real quick. Fiesta Tone. And the reason why I even put this one in here is because it can make radical differences to low contrast images or images that have large sweeps of low contrast. It can really wake them up. You see how that one made everything look warmer and darker. But don't forget, opacity can be your friend. This can inject some warmth into this otherwise sort of potentially autumn scene or winter scene maybe. And then, I mean, this doesn't look like winter to me, but I see snow-capped mountains. I don't know. You can change the opacity, but of course you can also change blend mode. So screen's going to brighten it up, multiply is going to darken it, soft light's kind of a little bit of both, and then overlay is a stronger version of that. You can also scale back the opacity. But if you go to your pattern here, you can also see that screen will expand it and lighten it, multiply will deepen it and darken it, soft light increases the contrast, overlay increases it further, right? You can kind of envision what happens and just kind of get an idea of when a LUT is doing something, instead of it being a mystery, you just figure out that it's remapping pixels. And you can do all kinds of it. Don't forget, if you apply this layer, this adjustment layer color lookup, now I can make the LUTs only appear on the shadows and away from the highlights. My highlights will remain untouched. So no matter what I change, the highlights will be okay. It's going to make every effect a little more subtle, but nonetheless, all the highlights are not changed. See that? Right? You don't have to have that, of course. I'm going to go ahead and remove that. That's garden mist, and this is glacier tone. Very, very subtle. Very, very subtle. And what about if we go to like, this one already has one, but let's say we go to a portrait. Portraits, especially a dramatic portrait, right? For example, if you apply it, this is a very strong one. This is obviously 3D glasses, the first one. If you were to apply like a terra tone, right? Okay, that's a cool tone. If you were to apply a toxic pop, that's a cool tone. Very, very strong, obviously, on the color. We can scale that back if we want. How about vintage flame? Okay, kind of cool. So off and on. But don't forget, let's turn that off a second. Let's say we make the image black and white, or it already is. When we add a LUT to it, in this case, these LUTs, now we have a toned black and white. See, so there's twilight. See, we have a very subtle tone, street style. That's going to be super subtle. Let's go something a little more intense. How about noir blood? See that? Now we're toning. And we can explore black and white toning if that's the kind of look that you like. I used to do a lot of that. I kind of got away from it. I don't do it as much. But again, it doesn't have to be just a grade over the color. You can start with a black and white image. This is just a demo. You can start with a black and white image and then casually tone it if you want. You can also scale that back quite a bit. Let's not go for that pink one. How about Cyber Pulse? Very, very strong. You can make that like a 20%. And now we've done a little bit of toning. And if you're curious what Cyber Pulse looks like, let's go back to our toner here, our pattern, I should say. And we can see that that's Cyber Pulse. Really, really bizarre and strange and cool. And if we apply it to our little mountain scene here, let's see what Cyber Pulse, excuse me. See? It's cool about, one thing that's really cool about exploring LUTs is that, like I said, they're sort of these complete-ish thoughts. I don't want to say it that way necessarily, but they're a little more of a complete thought, like I said, rather than just add shadows. And because of that, when you add it to an image, let's do Cyber Pulse again. Look at that. It didn't expect it to do that. If you look at all of them, our pattern, the mountain scene, and the car in the warehouse, there's something about them that matches because we've sent the palettes in that direction, but we've also created something different in each one, right? So if I take this dark one and put it on like on screen, now I'm adding the Cyber Pulse, but I'm also brightening, right? Because it happens to be a pretty dark shot, so screen helps me brighten it up. I can add more contrast with soft light, which kind of minimizes the color, but that wash of color is still in there. I can put it on color, which is going to minimize how dark it gets. It's only going to affect the color. See how cool that is? As opposed to normal, which is going to be a little bit darker. Color is going to be a little bit lighter, right? Leaves the luminosity more alone. See that? LUTs to me are not just about pull something down until it looks cool, but they're about playing around with, once you get the LUT in place, adding other layers, modifying the blend mode, changing the blend if, so you can affect only certain areas. There's so many things you can do, and never mind, you can stack them as well. So this one's on color. Let's say I just duplicate it. Obviously it gets stronger, but I can also put island film, maybe. Let's see. Let me take some of these down. Let me try macaron. If I put both of these at 50%, you see how I'm evolving a color? Ooh, that one's so subtle. Let's put that one on normal, and we're going to make it stronger. There you go. So I went from this Cyber Pulse thing, and then I added some warmth to it. I don't know. Maybe that works. One's on normal. One's on color. Who knows? That's what's cool about working with these, like I said, complete thoughts that are LUTs, because they can take you in all kinds of cool directions that maybe you weren't considering going. So for example, let's say I come here and we have it on 3D glasses. Let's go back to Cyber Pulse because that one was kind of fun. It's really strong. It's easy to see what's going on, right? So if I put that like on soft light, but then I only put it mostly, I should say, on the highlights. There you go. Now I'm adding that Cyber Pulse feel to the highlights. I'm not darkening the shadows, right? I don't think it worked right there. Okay. Never know. Overlay a little bit stronger, adding contrast and that color wash to that. Completely changes the feel of that. We've gone from this perfect neutral grade, which is, in my opinion, perfect for the shot, but now we've given it this kind of futuristic, edgy grade, which will look phenomenal on video. And at the end of this video here, I'm going to show you some samples of what the LUTs look like on generic video clips, even some AI video clips on top of that. So I hope that makes sense. I encourage you to try these out. Again, not expensive. Let's see what it looks like on this one, because these are definitely interesting. Cyber Pulse. Boom. Yeah, definitely kind of accentuates, probably a little too strong in my opinion, but that's all right. We can also put that on color and just add the color and leave most of the contrast alone. You never know. Switch it to emerald film. Boom, completely different feel. That's what I love about LUTs. I'm certainly not the first one to provide LUTs. Certainly not the first person to create my own LUTs. I do them all the time. But I think this set, I really wanted something usable and functional for you guys to explore some creative looks with it. And not just, hey, I'm selling you guys some presets you should buy. Nah, I want you guys to have tools that work. And I want to show you, for example, like I did on this actual little pattern, to show you what these things might actually look like. So electric void, obviously purple. So if I come over here to this shot now, let's go to this shot here, and we'll go to electric void. Boop. And as you can see, we very obviously have added a purple tone, which is mostly reducing the intensity of the yellow tone of the car, but also adding a purple wash. You can kind of see what's going on. You don't have to use a pattern like this, guys, but I just figured it shows a little bit better rather than guessing, because I hear quite a bit from my students and my customers is color grading is mysterious to me, and it certainly can be if you don't know, or if you're not given it the right approach. LUTs are a great way to start, because if you get a look that you sort of like for example here on the Beamer, you think, I like this, but I'm going to keep going. Maybe throw a selective color in there, and you come in here and play around with the shadows. And now you add some blue to the shadows, a little bit of cyan maybe, and you're like, you know what? Yeah, I like where this is going. I went from this to this. Yes, there you go. You can keep stacking other ideas, but you never know what sparks an idea, whether it's a preset, whether it's a LUT, whether it's an action or a style in Capture One or something in Lightroom. You never know what sparks a color idea, and LUTs are a great way to do it, especially when they've been made, like I said, with RGB curves, with all kinds of considerations that appeal to the eye, if you will. I know that sounds like maybe an overstatement, but it's supposed to be like smooth and appealing, and then you can run with it, not extreme looks that you probably have no use for, maybe. Okay, though I do have a LUT set that's pretty extreme for lots of well, experimental purposes. But again, I wanted to show you that. Check it out. Go to the website. I don't know when you're watching this video. This might be the only LUTs I have available right now, and it could be one of many, because there's a lot more coming up.